Is it true that most of the Egyptian mummies are gone because the British ate them? The truth is that many Egyptian mummies are gone because the British and other Europeans ate them. And I think most people will be shocked to hear this. Most people will be shocked to hear, and most people will not believe what I'm saying. Yeah? The practice of eating Egyptian mummies began, I believe, in the 12th century. So around this time, mummies were exported from Egypt. See, at that time, Egypt was ruled by the Arabs. The entire culture and religion of Egypt had changed, and there was no sacredness associated anymore with the Egyptian mummies, the mummies of their ancestors, right? So Egypt used to sell mummies to the European nations. At that time, the uh, various uh, exchanges, cultural exchanges, and other exchanges between the Islamic world, the Arabic world, and the Christian or European world were already going on, right? And that's how the Indian knowledge was transferred to Europe, Indian mathematics and science and all that. So at that time, the Arabs were ruling, the Mamluks were ruling Egypt, yes, and the Europeans were very curious about Egyptian mummies, and these Mamluks and the whoever was ruling Egypt would sell mummies to Europeans. And Europeans, they had this weird thing that at that time there was no medicine, right? There was only things, people believed various things. So it was believed that these mummies were the mummies of Egyptian kings, and it was believed that mummies, they held spirit, the spirit, the life spirit of the ancient Egyptian kings, and therefore if you consume that, then your health will improve and will become much better. So the European royalty used to consume powders made by grinding up Egyptian mummies, and that practice eventually made its way into the civilian, non-royal, non-aristocratic population as well. And after a century or two, the Egyptians, they imposed a ban on exporting mummies, but by the time fake mummies were created, and that practice continued. And even in the 18th and 19th century, you would have centuries, you would have these various Egyptians selling mummies on the roadside, you know that sort of thing. So yes, a significant number of Egyptian mummies were ground up into powder and consumed. I think there was a powder called mumia or something that the Europeans used to eat, and they believed it would give them better health. It would cure various illnesses and diseases and all that. And there was a lot of cannibalism in Europe. Uh, the British royalty, they would be given various ointments and medicines made from human skulls, and various ointments made from human fat would be used as ointments or to treat diseases like gout and various other things. So that's the kind of practice you had in Europe for a very long time. Human skull extracts were given to British royalty until the beginning of the 20th century. Yeah. So from the 12th century until the 20th century, these barbaric, primitive, brutal, strange, bizarre practices continued in Europe and in the UK. Cannibalism, actual cannibalism. So I'm not sure how many mummies were consumed. And afterwards, what happened is that mummies became a big craze in Europe, and there used to be these mummy unwrapping parties. So a bunch of rich people would get together, they would get drunk, and then they would have procured a mummy, and then they would unwrap the mummy and make it naked, and that was something supposedly entertainment for them. And that showed you how rich you were, because it was quite expensive to procure a mummy. Mummies by that time were quite rare and they were not readily available. So if you could procure a mummy which came from Egypt, it showed your status as a very wealthy person. And then you would invite all your wealthy friends, rich friends, and you would all have a party, all get drunk, and then you would unwrap the mummy and that sort of thing. So I don't know what kind of incredibly bizarre practices were in vogue in Europe. But yes, it is indeed true that Europeans consumed Egyptian mummies and even fake Egyptian mummies. So cannibalism. Cannibalism was an accepted practice in Europe until the 20th century. I don't know how it is now. I'm sure it's not. It's not there now. But yeah, interesting, isn't it, my dear friends?